Okay guys, so in today's video we're going to be doing an update on the as of yet uninhabited vivarium from DMS Vivaria. I'm going to be doing more in-depth updates on the plants and how they're doing, the lighting, what's going on there, and also the plans I've got for this enclosure because obviously it isn't finished yet. So without further ado, let's crack on. So, as it has been 2 months since I set this up, a little bit over 2 months actually, you would expect that lots would have changed with it, and naturally it has. Particularly with this lighting, I'm going to dedicate a section of this video to these lights in a minute, because it really is worth it, and they have just blown me away. But more on that later. So the plants have been growing absolutely crazy, and we're going to start off by taking a look at them. So working our way up from the bottom to the top, we're going to start by looking at these Pilea, which are these plants growing along the front. I've got two varieties, this dark green one and the lighter green one. I think that's a Pilea spruciana and that is a Pilea cardieri, but I'll have to check that in the future. But these dark green ones, whatever they're called, they haven't grown too fast. The two in the middle here have been growing a bit recently, getting new leaves. Although where this one is, at the side down here, I have been seeing lots of roots popping out of it, so that's good. Then these light green ones are the real stars of the show so far. I've got some over here, and they've just absolutely rocketed up. In the 2 months I've had them, for example, everything like above here is completely new on this one. And then this one's grown a ton. From this leaf node upwards, everything is completely new in 2 months. And I just was not expecting that. These two here, you can see it's like a little bit of a shaded patch from the lights. So they have not grown like as fully, but they have gone really tall. And then moving back from those, the Fittonia pink vein hasn't grown that fast, but I've definitely noticed an improvement in the colour. They were sort of more whitish when I got them, and now they're pink. This Spathiphyllum, or peace lily I think it's called, this entire leaf here, this great big one, that is entirely new in just 2 months. And then under here we do have another leaf coming through, so that's good. This pink Neregelia fireball is just an absolutely amazing colour. Like, I'll be throwing pictures in periodically, just so you can see how much this has changed, but that especially has gone really pink. Even this Ricea bromeliad, if you look really closely, I'll try and take you in, you can sort of see a bit of a purple tinge to it in various places there especially. And this is not a bromeliad that's meant to blush really, so that is just really showing how good this lighting is. Coming over here, I do have one of my favourite plants in this enclosure. It's some people call it ivy oak leaf, or oak leaf fig, or oak leaf creeping fig. Ficus quercifolia is the scientific name, I'm quite sure. But it has just been spreading out. Now, I apologise for the light glare because you're quite close to the lights, but you can see a little shoot going up there. There's one, I'm not sure if you can see that at all, but going right up the background. And then there's one that's gone all the way out over here, and you can see just the little bud peeking through the sphagnum moss growing there. So that has really impressed me. And the sphagnum moss here, well, you can really see that that has taken off directly under the lights. It's just done incredibly well. You might recall that there was an air plant growing in here, but that was the only plant that's really failed out of all the lot I put in here. I think it was just too wet, sat in the moss, but the moss itself, obviously doing great. Finally, tucked back here, we do have the Magravia and the Devil's Ivy. The Devil's Ivy, I was a bit worried about putting it in. That's the one down there with the variegated leaves. Slightly odd angle, so sorry about that, but that hasn't really shot up, which I was afraid it might do and take over the tank, so that is quite good. And the Magravia, that is probably my favourite plant in the tank. That has grown incredibly well, so much so that I have actually taken a cutting of it and it's shoved right down there. I think you can see that, which is good because it's such a weird angle for me holding the camera, but that is shot off up the background. It's going right up there, you can see, and I'm hoping that when the plants grow in better, the creeping fig is going to come down and sort of meet the magravia growing up that way, and maybe the magravia will grow up there and meet the moss. And that reminds me, actually, we do have some more moss, I'm not sure on the type, growing along this wood, and you can see it well from the front, and also the same type growing up there. Now, I didn't buy those or like make a moss paste, which you can do. That actually came on the cork bark, the Pro Rep cork bark pieces, and it's just absolutely flourished. But basically, overall, I could go on all day about the plants in here because they're just really interesting to me how they develop over time, but everything is doing incredibly well. Now, honestly, I was not expecting the plants to do this well in this enclosure because I've grown plants in various vivaria for a long time now, and they've never really done this well. I mean, the closest thing to it is my crested gecko's enclosure, which you can just see peeping in over here. That's Splat's enclosure. The stuff doesn't grow nowhere near as fast, and there are a couple of factors that could aid the plant growth in this setup. Firstly, the high humidity. Because this vivarium from DMS Vivaria is sort of designed for dart frogs, and it's got like mainly the glass lid with only a tiny bit of fly screen mesh here, and a little bit in front of the doors for the Eurovent system, which is where you have the fresh air coming in through the bottom, and then going up and through this little panel, and that sort of mainly keeps this front area free of condensation, but it does maintain a nice high humidity, which you want for dart frogs and stuff, which, you know, is sort of the thing that you would like to keep in a setup like this. But that high humidity is definitely going to be helping the plants in some way. And then the other thing that it could be is the substrate, because I'm using a different substrate, but I'm pretty sure it's not that, because I actually think the substrate's quite bad that I'm using, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But basically, I think that the number one thing has got to be these lights, really. This is a tiny double unit from Skylight. I'll chuck a link up to the website up here. And you know, they did send me these for free, so you might think I'm biased or whatever, but the proof's in the pudding. You can go out and check this setup when I did it 2 months ago and how much things have grown. So I don't want to do like a full review on these yet because it has only been 2 months, but so far the results are absolutely amazing, and if you've got a setup like this, then I definitely recommend them. I have been led to believe that they are actually designed so that you get the right wavelength penetrating the glass as opposed to a mesh top. So they are going to work better on your glass lids as opposed to mesh ones, although I'm sure that they would work incredibly well on mesh whatever. And just talking about the glass tops, people do talk about dust and that settling in mesh tops over time, and it's sort of stopping light get through. And you can really actually quite see this well on the glass top because you can see the dust coming in. So what I like to do sort of once a week is just lift these up lightly. Usually I do it when the lights are off. And then just brush away any dust that's settled so that you make sure that you're getting the most out of your lights. And just for the record, the light behind there is a T8 7% UVB bulb by Arcadia, and that is for the inhabitants that are going to be coming into this setup, hopefully in the near future, but they haven't been available for a long time, which is why it's still not stocked. But I have got this light on there just so that the plants can acclimatise to the UV being present, and also so I can monitor the temperatures with this bulb. Now, this is quite amazing, but because those lights are so bright, it's actually really, really hard to focus in on the magravia. It looks like it's in a complete shadow, but to me, it looks really well lit. Not the most well lit place in the tank, but on the camera, it just looks so dark. So I apologise if you can't see this very well. But the Mogravia's got like a little shoot that's just coming down here, and it's sort of going into nowhere. You can see the roots coming off it, maybe, if I zoom right in when I'm editing. But I want that shoot to sort of go up the background more. So what I'm going to do is get a little drawing pin and just stick it into the cork, and it'll hold it up. I'll show you what I mean now. So hopefully you can see that a bit better. I've just used a little pin to hold that up, and hopefully that'll train it up this piece of cork bark and it'll make a nice background. Quite a bit has actually gone on with this plant. The first thing being that about, I think it was a week, it might be 2 weeks now, I can't remember. I did spot some mealybugs on this plant, and that is not a good thing. I'll throw up a picture of them, but they are an absolute pest. And if you get those in your tank and you get a good foothold, you can say goodbye to all your plants because they're absolutely awful pests. But I spotted two, took them out straight away, and actually the remedy for these you might not expect. It actually lies in a specific type of ladybird that is evolved to eat them, hunt them, and get rid of them. But I wasn't that sure about getting those. I didn't want to fill this enclosure with ladybirds first. So I went and had a rummage in the garden, and I actually managed to find a ladybird. And that ladybird was running about the enclosure for a week or so, and then it died, which is sort of bad. But since then, I haven't seen any mealybugs, so fingers crossed they aren't going to come back. But on a similar note, I have actually had like 3 slime moulds develop in this enclosure. Now, a slime mould, again, I'll throw a picture up, is not harmful. They're completely harmless little things. They look kind of like they're going to hurt your plants, but they don't. And I've had a couple, and usually they take years to appear, so I was quite pleased with that, and it was sort of interesting to see them. So back to doing a little bit of maintenance. You'll remember during the build that I put this little bit of pipe just down here going into the drainage layer, so that when the drainage layer was getting really full with water, I could easily just stick a turkey baster down there and get the water out just like this. So that just makes it a really easy drainage system. And the drainage layer now is quite full, so I'm gonna go down with this turkey baster and maybe take out a litre of water or something, just so that the substrate isn't gonna get waterlogged. And just a couple of minutes later, I've pretty much filled this jug with water. This has left the drainage layer about, not sure if you can see it, left the drainage layer down there about half full, and half to 3/4 full is where you want it to be sat at. So that is that done for this week. I did it last week, and that was the first time I did it, but I'll top that water up easily within a week. But because I've had these doors open to film for a while now, I'm just going to give this tank a good spray down, because the humidity, not sure if you can see it on the gauge back there, dropped to about 64%, and that is quite low for this tank. So just to keep the moss happy, I'm going to give it a good spray down now. So after doing that little bit of maintenance, which is all it really needs, sort of every week, every couple of weeks, just to keep it going well, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I've got planned for this setup, and where it's going in the near future. So one thing that I'm not that happy about is the fact that the colours of some of the new growth is just not looking too good. I'll chuck some pictures up now, but you'll see that some of the new leaves are a bit yellowish. And I think this is because the substrate I'm using is like, it's the ABG mix that I made up myself. And when I was doing it, I was thinking it was kind of low mineral. And now that stuff's growing, I'm seeing that it really must be, because lots of the new growth is that pale yellowish colour. So I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is add some of Arcadia's Bio Revitalizer. Now what this product is, it's like a load of volcanic rock and worm castings and stuff in a really high density. So hopefully if I were to throw that in and then add some Dendrobina worms, because there's still no cleanup crew in this setup, hopefully they would drag it through and plants could use that to make the growth the more green colour that I was expecting, as opposed to this yellow. Now, as well as this, you may be wondering why I've not got anything living in here yet. Stuff's grown in, and I've got all the lighting and that. The inhabitants for it could definitely go in here right now if they were available. It's just that they aren't. So I have asked my local pet shop to let me know when they're going to get more in. I asked them like a few months ago, and I've still not seen them available, still not been told they've been available. And I have been able to order some online, it's just too cold for shipping at the minute. So hopefully my pet shop will get some in soon. Last year they seemed to have them in all the time, and then as soon as I want them, they don't have any. But basically, I think if it gets to the end of February and I can't get anything, then there might be a slight change of plans, because there is something else that I would like to put in here. So if my first plan fails, then I'll probably go for that instead. So anyway guys, that is the update on this setup. I'm really pleased with how it's doing, to be honest. I mean, ignoring like the slight yellowishness to some of the leaves and all that, the entire tank is just doing incredibly well, and I couldn't really be more happy with it, to be honest. Certainly the tank itself from DMS Vivaria is just amazing at holding that humidity in, and these lights, they're just really good, basically. You can only get them, I think, in the UK from DMS Vivaria and from Buzzard Reptiles at the minute. I'll throw the links down to their websites in the description. But, yeah. So hopefully you did enjoy this video and you got sort of a bit of a taste of what it's like to look after a tank like this. And hopefully you're as excited for what's going to happen with it in the future as I am. But for now, that is it on this tank. I'll be back with another video in a week's time, so if you want to see that, hit subscribe, leave this video a like, and give us a comment just telling me your opinions. So I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.